Our motto is what's learned here is for life.
Yeah.
And so we want every point of the program to develop them into successful men.
Mm-hmm.
That's the goal.
Right.
So academically, physically, that's why we offer sports, different clubs. So we're trying to give them the tools at Boys Home so that they can go on to be successful men.
A place that changes lives. We're here with Donnie and Laura Costigan of Boys Home. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
So Boys Home has been around for 120 years in our community. And I'm happy you guys could join us today, kind of to tell that story, right? You're right here, a lot of history, but yet some people don't understand the mission or the role or exactly what is Boys Home. So we're anxious to hear about it. So Laura, let's start with you. Give us a little bit about, your role and what you do at Boys Home.
Yeah, so I've been at Boys Home for just over 4 years now. My role now is in development as the donor relations manager. So that involves quite a few things, but it gives me an opportunity weekly to be out there talking about Boys Home. I would say it's probably one of my favorite things to talk about. Very passionate about this mission and what we're doing. And so that's where I spend a lot of my time, is on the phone with donors or doing outreach, talking about the mission and how people can get involved.
Donnie, you're the Director of Athletics and Recreation and an alumni of Boys Home. Tell us a little bit about what you do there.
Well, I'm the, like you said, I'm the Director of Athletics and Recreation. I've been at Boys Home for it'll be 23 years in February. So I had several different roles, but my main one is right now is I'm in charge of athletics and recreation. Athletics, we have spring and fall soccer teams, and we also have varsity and JV basketball.
Right.
So of course I'm in charge of both of those athletics, doing the scheduling, the budgeting, everything that goes along with any athletic team, and then also recreation. So I set up different kind of recreation trips for the guys, whether it's kayaking, canoeing, on the Jackson or other places. Of course, I have other staff members that help me with that.
Right.
So I'm always on my feet. I'm constantly going.
That's where I met you, last week. I was taking a tour with Laura and came to the gym, which is fantastic, by the way. It's a beautiful gymnasium, and it's a snow day, I think it was, and you were there with the men, young guys, and kind of doing what you do, right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah, and you're an alumni, so you came to Boys Home as a young man, and how many years did you spend there?
I came to Boys Home when I was 9 years old, and I spent 9 years there before I left and went to college.
And quite the basketball star, I hear.
Yeah, I think I was pretty good back in the day.
Yeah.
He holds the record as our second all-time leading scorer.
Yeah.
And still holds that record. So.
And at that time, a graduate of the students went to Allegheny school system, right? So you were a standout at Allegheny as well.
Yeah, I played most of my time. Basketball career was played at Boys Home, but I did go to Allegheny my senior year, and because I wanted to play better competition,
right?
Be more noticed by other schools. Because at that time, when I first got to Boys Home, I didn't really know that. I didn't know I was going to be that good in basketball, and I didn't know I was, little did I know further on in my career, I would be able to go to college.
Right.
And Boys Home made that happen.
It was a platform.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And Laura, you're from the area, so you've got a rich background here as well. And Can you give us a little bit about that? And
Sure.
you went off to college, and subsequently both of you came back. Right?
Yeah, so my family goes back several generations. My grandfather was actually the mayor for 19 years. So I actually remember one of my favorite stories is he actually did door-to-door campaigning. And I remember being pretty young. I was about 7, and we were in a neighborhood, and he took me with him. And at one point I was like, I'm getting really tired. I didn't realize this was going to take like hours. And he's like, we're not going to stop until we've knocked on every door in this neighborhood. So, rich history with my grandfather, and then my parents. My dad retired from Ingevity. My mom worked at Mountain Gateway, but an interesting connection is her first job out of college was actually at Boys Home.
Yeah.
She was a social worker there for 6 years. And my uncle was actually a former athletic director. Back in I want to say it was the 70s. He was there, and a basketball coach.
Right.
He was there for about 13 years. So, great place to grow up. Did graduate from Covington High School, so Donnie would have been my rival back in the day, going to Allegheny. We still talk about that now.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned earlier, I was so excited to leave, came back in 2021, and my eyes have really been open as to what this community can offer.
Right.
And how it's really trying to adapt to offer younger people opportunities. Have a great coffee shop on Main Street. And they're definitely trying to make it appealing for people to come back.
Right. And you took this role at Boys Home, and when someone says Boys Home, right? What do you want them to know? What do you want them to think about the mission of serving these young men?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, we've been there for 120 years. Our mission is the same as when we began, to help each young man develop spiritually, mentally, physically, and socially. I would argue that mission is just as relevant as it was 120 years ago.
If not more.
If not more.
Yeah.
Giving what the current youth in our country, different situations that they might be in. It's an incredible program that offers a really great opportunity.
Right.
And I think a lot of people, I would say even local people, might not know what's happening up on the hill. That's our term a lot of people call Boys Home. And so I'm hoping in my efforts and outreach, along with the Director of Development, to change that.
Yeah, it was a great tour last week. It was eye-opening. I had never been there. I drive up, Route 60 and, see the houses on the hill, but I've never been over there. And what really struck me is it's almost like a college campus. It's self-contained. It's a residential program. And, what can you share about, the principles and what you're developing in these young men?
Yeah, so, and Donnie might be able to speak on that as well, but, we're trying, our motto is what's learned here is for life.
Yeah.
And so we want every point of the program to develop them into successful men. That's the goal.
Right.
So academically, physically, that's why we offer sports, different clubs. So we're trying to give them the tools at Boys Home so that they can go on to be successful men.
Yeah, it was a great, having lunch with y'all, and the young man that joined us, and I'm not going to name names because he's a minor, so I don't want to name names. But he was very proud. He was involved in the horses, the farm, equestrian. Again, that's something that I didn't realize was there. Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that's unique too is it's such a complex program, and one thing I love is that there will be some area a student can fit in.
Right.
So I always say, not every student is an athlete.
Right.
Not every student is going to excel at school.
Yeah.
But hopefully, my hope is they find quickly a boys' home, an area that's their happy place.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and for some young men, you know, being around the horses, the goats, it's therapeutic.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
something about being on the farm that just, you know, I love going to the farm.
You know, Donnie, you mentioned, you know, you're an alumni. It's been a few years, right, since you first came to Boys Home. But can you talk to me about, you know, how you got there? You arrived, and when you first arrived, how was that transition? You know, how did that affect you? With, if it's personal, I understand, but you know, share what you want to share.
Well, I had been through a lot of stuff before I came to Boys Home. There was a lot of change in my life, a lot of ups and downs, struggle in my parents' marriage, and I had a social worker that actually said, "Hey, we're going to go visit this place at Boys Home at the mountains." So yeah, you know, I went, and I feel like I stayed. Like
Yeah.
I'm still there today, but
Yeah,
it it was a little scary.
I bet.
I didn't know what to expect, the unknown. You know, I was 9 years old. You know,
Yeah,
but little did I know, you know, the program changed my life. You know, it offered me there was consistency in the program. There was discipline, accountability. I was safe. There was people that cared for me and that actually, you know, believed in me,
hmm
and um, and it gave me hope in my life.
yeah.
So
That's a powerful story, and I would imagine really helps you connect with the young men that come there. You know that they're following they're following kind of the events that led to your arrival. It should help you relate and help guide them.
yeah, and I use that a lot when I talk to the guys. You know, a lot of the guys, like, they'll say, you know, you don't know what I'm going through, but I do.
Yeah.
I do know what they are going through because, yeah, it was a different time, but things are still kind of still the same. You know, the program's still the same. The structure and the building blocks of the program that was back then. You know, still we're still trying to instill that into, you know, the kids, the youth today,
Yeah,
young men today. So I tried to give them, you know, advice on, you know, take advantage of the program.
Right.
You know,
learn from it,
learn from it,
grow,
take
develop.
advantage of it. You know, because it's there to help you.
Yeah.
It's there to help you grow. And you know, you take it, like I told them, you know, take advantage of it. You'll never know how far it's going to take you.
Yeah. Well, you're a shining example of it. It will take you as far as you'll use it.
Yeah,
You know,
and
not saying that negatively, but you know, it gave you a foundation, and all the positive aspects that you mentioned led you, you know, to college, and you know, graduate of which university?
Bluefield University.
Bluefield, and then you know, on into your professional life, and then to come back. So, I mean, that's a very powerful commentary that you're sharing. That I think, you know, those young men are quite frankly really lucky to have you.
Mhm.
And you know, we're talking about this. It's a residential program, right? The students live there, eat there, go to school there. You know, I think probably from our younger days, you know, as we mentioned, you know, you were integrated and went to the Allegheny school system, but you're kind of self-contained now. Can you talk to us about that a little bit, Laura?
Yeah, so, you know, one of the reasons, you know, the residential aspect is we really want them to be fully immersed in this program.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we're trying to create this structure, this consistency, these expectations, the full legal custody is still with the family. These students go home at Thanksgiving, Christmas. Many will go home in the summer for a period of time. Obviously, parents can come visit, but we want them to really be a part of that community and buy in, if you will. And then look for opportunities to also get them off campus, whether it's through athletics, church visits. I'll talk about Key Club later. Those are opportunities for them to get off campus. And then the idea with the school system, a lot of our young men, might need help academically. They've been dealing with a lot at home, and sometimes academics can fall behind,
Right.
like they would for any student. And so our teacher to student ratio is 5-to-1.
That's great.
So they're in a very small classroom.
Right.
So it's going to be hard to fall behind.
They don't get lost.
No, they don't. They have study hall 5 nights a week. Whether they like it or not, there's a lot of eyes on every student, and that's intentional,
Right.
so that we can make sure they're developing and succeeding in our program. And then if they are struggling or having a setback, we address that in a timely manner to get them back on the path.
How do you translate that when you're reaching out to donors
Mhm.
and to attract? I mean, it's more than just financial donors. There's mentors. There's
Mhm.
people that come in, and whether they're guest speakers or they're bringing something to the campus to share. How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think by telling the story, making sure people understand what we're doing. One of the things when I'm out there talking to civic groups or talking to groups, I always highly recommend is come visit campus. Come, have lunch with the young men, take a tour.
Right. Which I did.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think you can really see, I can actually almost visually see this moment of, wow, I didn't know this is what was happening here.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way I felt when I left. Yeah.
And that's hard, as much as I would like to think I'm a good salesperson.
Right.
And can tell the story. I now have a very personal connection to it.
Yeah.
I think seeing is believing.
Mhm.
We have our spring open house the last Saturday in April 25th from 11 to 4. It's going to be a great event. That's a great time to come. Should be warmer. You don't have to worry about snow and ice.
Breaking a hip.
And then if proximity is an issue, we have some great videos we have now with some drone footage of campus, some great supportive material. Fortunately, now you can set up Zoom calls. Donnie and I had a Zoom call we actually reached out to some donors in California, and they wanted to get to know Donnie better. And so with technology now, there's multiple ways we can connect. Even if you're, maybe a tour is not feasible, depending on where you are. But like I said, I think seeing the campus and seeing we're right in the heart of the Allegheny Mountains. We're on 1,200 acres. We actively use 5. It's a beautiful campus.
It is. It is. It's like a community college. I mean, when I walked around the campus, I'm thinking, this is, you've got about as much square acreage up there than Mountain Gateway does. Yeah, it's just a beautiful setting.
Absolutely.
When, Donnie, we talked about your time there and subsequently coming back, I mean, what's one lesson from Boys Home that still resonates with you today?
I think there's a lot of lessons that was learned there that I still carry with me today. I think one of them is power of consistency. Just being consistent in what you're doing. Take something very small that's given to you and being consistent with it and building it over time. With the effort, showing the effort and like I said, consistency, developing that discipline to do the thing, whatever it is.
Consistency builds habit. Habit builds structure.
Yes, sir.
Structure builds, success.
Mm-hmm.
At what point did you realize as a young man that Boys Home changed the trajectory of your life?
Honestly, I don't know. I can't really pinpoint a certain time,
Yeah.
spot in time when it happened. But I felt like um, as I began to excel academically and athletically, um, and I began to buy into that, um, I feel like I owe all that to Boys Home because they they believed in me. They were just very consistent. Um, the program was just consistent with, you know, hey, you have potential academically. We're gonna,
We're going to invest in you.
yeah, they invested in me.
Yeah.
And same thing with athletics.
Hmm.
Like, as I began to, grow and become better in basketball.
Yeah.
Um, and all that, consistency and them buying into me and believing in me
Hmm.
helped me to go to college. I never thought that I would, coming as a 9-year-old little boy, like I didn't think about going to college. My mom and dad only have an 8th grade education. So, I was doing well just to graduate high school. And then as I got closer, I'm like, you have the potential to not only go to college, but also play college basketball.
Right.
And I never thought in a million years that would happen. And I owe all that to Boys Home.
Here you are talking to me on a podcast. Yeah, Laura, one of your roles in cultivating donors, has to be communicating the importance of, the trust and transparency, and helping donors understand what the mission is there. What motivates you to do this?
Because I believe in what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's when I first got to know Donnie and interviewed him in his office, it was a little embarrassing because I'm surrounded by athletic equipment and basketballs, and I start crying.
Yeah.
And fortunately, he had a tissue, which I thought was very kind, but it's, understandably now there's a lot of skepticism about what people are doing and are they actually accomplishing the mission.
Right.
And I can say wholeheartedly, we're changing lives.
Yeah, those misconceptions, tearing down those misconceptions about, about the young men that you serve. How do you do that? I mean, how do you address that with people?
Well, one would be opportunities like this to be able to clear up some of those misconceptions. I hear quite often, how does a student get there? And I think there's still a pretty negative misconception about that stems from the 90s, 80s. We were associated with the Department of Social Services. Students were court appointed. Very different type of young man.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's private placement, word of mouth. We have a much different kind of student. So that's definitely a misconception that I would like to shed light on. And so also just getting out there, being able to get in front of, I'm actively seeking opportunities to get in front of groups, organizations, individuals. To me, the more we can talk about it and people can ask questions, the better that they understand what's actually happening.
And your Boys Home is sponsored by the church, right? It's Episcopalian, right?
We were founded by an Episcopal priest. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the origin, the origin of the.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the community, right? Again, we're self-contained. The young men go to school there. How does that translate to a broader community sense? We don't see these young gentlemen in class every day.
Mm-hmm.
How do we do that as from your role as how do we get them in the community, and how how does that work?
Yeah, so our vision, I talked a little bit about the mission. Our vision at Boys Home is to be a community that inspires young men and our staff to positively impact those around them.
Right.
And so, ideally, as staff, we're living out that vision and then helping to nurture that with the young men.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, interestingly enough, became the Key Club leader
Yes.
this school year, which has been some interesting experiences. But that's something that was heavily instilled in me by my parents, my grandparents. You should give back to your community.
Mm-hmm.
You should invest in your community. That's what we're called to do.
Right.
And so I want to help those young men understand why we do that, the importance of that. So in December, we were out. I think right now we have about 14 members. We helped at the Christmas Mother Shop, which is personal to me.
Yeah.
My mother was the Christmas Mother in 1990.
Mm-hmm.
We rang the bell for the Salvation Army on a cold, rainy night.
Seems they all are, right?
Which I had to entertain some young men for an hour with singing and I think there was some dancing. We also made Christmas cards for veterans.
Mm-hmm.
And so December, I really wanted to focus on serving and giving back at the club. We actually logged 105 hours for the first semester.
Yeah.
And I hope to do the same for the second semester. And so I want to, I think, with the misconception I talked about, seeing these young men out there.
Yeah.
And seeing, Donnie can speak to this too. It's amazing some of the stuff you see on campus. They're very polished when they're out.
Right.
Very respectful, using their manners. I'm not saying they don't do that on campus, but they're also teenagers.
Sure, yeah.
But he just got a call, I think last week, another school complimenting Donnie and the coaches on how the boys behaved at the school.
Great. I think that the community interaction goes a long way in supporting or reinforcing the values that you're really instilling in these guys. If you were talking to a donor and they said, "What can I do to help? What can we do to help? What could a donor do to help Boys Home today?"
Yeah, so I think for any donor, that's going to depend on how you want to get involved.
Right.
You might be retired and have time to volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
To, my dad teaches fly tying class and comes up and does fly fishing with the young men. Also, we are 98% privately funded.
Right.
That other 2% is a small portion. And so financial support is always needed.
Sure.
We are a nonprofit, a 501c3. And so, and ideally, many people help with that type of support.
Right.
Whether it be a community, a church, an organization.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is one way that we always need support, but there's other ways too. And so I would want, hopefully a donor that believes in this mission figures out how they can best support Boys Home.
Yeah. I'll mention we were doing the tour. We went in the gym, fantastic gym, by the way, nice, recently renovated by a donor.
It was actually through Ingevity. And they were a big spearhead of that project. My dad actually led that project. He's passionate about Boys Home too, and really commends Donnie for keeping it up and keeping it clean. He's pretty rigid about the cleanliness and what shoes they're wearing on the gym floor, and because that's a great, even on these snow days, or these weather, it's freezing outside, you can still use the gym and you can still use the student center.
Well, back to the what you were sharing with us, Donnie. I mean, I would think that the young men there noticed that somebody in the community, and Ingevity's a pretty substantial employer here, making an investment not just in the structure, but in them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, money can fix a building, but it's an investment in them, their environment, their livelihood, I would guess. So I mean, it's a great story. It's a great point to share that anybody in the community should consider how can we help.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see Boys Home in 10 years? I will ask both of you the question, but I'll start with Laura.
So I would say in 10 years, I'll start with the community aspect. I hope a lot of those misconceptions are gone. I hope that more people are involved and it really becomes, I was born and raised here. I've been back for 4 years, so that would be, over 20 years of my life. I would love for people to be so proud of this as part of our community, and speak to it in a way that's, isn't it amazing that we have this right in our community? And to get involved, and anyone can come take a tour. Anyone can come share a meal with the young men. And then from the other side, from the student aspect, when you hear Donnie's story, I think about, Boys Home really being a beacon of hope.
Yeah.
And that, maybe there's other young men out there who could benefit from our program. And, where's the next Donnie Costigan who, we can tell that story 10 years from now.
Donnie?
I'll piggyback off of what my wife said. I hope in 10 years it continues to be a place of hope for young men and a second chance. That it continues to a place to grow young men spiritually, mentally, physically, and socially, and just transform their lives. And help them become better members of society, strengthen their communities, and their own families.
Yeah.
Because I don't want. I know with me, and I realized this as I got older, and my past trauma before I came to Boys Home doesn't define me.
Yes.
I make my future, and Boys Home helped me do that. It transformed my life, and I hope that 10 years from now that continues to help young men transform their lives.
It is a powerful story, and you carry that banner well. Boys Home, 120 years of history of changing lives. If you didn't know, now you know. Thanks for joining us today.